Every great manifestation begins in the quiet stirring of desire. Desire is not something to be feared or suppressed, but rather the divine signal of what you are ready to express in this world. When a longing rises within you, it is not random, nor is it the product of chance or circumstance. It is the voice of your deeper self calling you toward an experience that is already yours in the unseen. This is why desire should be treated as sacred, because it is the seed of creation. But a seed, by itself, can do nothing unless it finds the proper soil. The soil of manifestation is imagination. When you take your desire and clothe it in an imaginal act, when you see yourself already living in the state of the wish fulfilled, you plant the seed into fertile ground. Consider how a gardener works. A gardener does not question whether the seed has the power to grow, nor does he anxiously dig up the soil every day to check on its progress. He plants, he waters, and he trusts the unseen process beneath the ground. The soil does the hidden work. In the same way, imagination is the invisible soil of consciousness where desire is nurtured until it pushes itself out into visible form. When you imagine yourself having, being, or doing the thing you long for, you are not indulging in fantasy. You are performing the only real act of creation there is. What is seen later in the outer world is nothing more than the harvest of what you have already planted within. The mistake many make is to think desire alone is enough. They hold the longing in their hearts but never move it into imagination. They continue to desire as though the thing were absent, reinforcing the feeling of lack. Desire without imagination becomes an endless yearning, always pointing to something missing. But when desire is combined with the assumption that it is already yours, when you dare to see yourself at the end, living as though it has already happened, then you have truly sown the seed. At that moment, creation is complete. All that remains is the natural gestation period, after which the outer world reflects the inner certainty. It is important to realize that nothing is ever created in the outer world. The outer is only an echo, a reflection, a shadow of what has already been established within. The true creative act takes place when you close your eyes, quiet the senses, and live inwardly in the state of fulfillment. If you desire abundance, do not look at your empty pockets. Instead, see yourself paying bills with ease, giving freely, enjoying the comfort of provision. If you desire love, do not dwell on loneliness. Instead, feel the warmth of companionship, hear the laughter, experience the joy of togetherness as though it were happening now. In doing this, you are planting desire into the living soil of imagination, where it must take root and grow into the world of facts. Now consider the difference between effort and ease. The outer world demands effort because it operates by appearances. To achieve something outwardly, men labor, they strive, they push against obstacles. This is the realm of sweat and strain. But in the realm of the spirit, in the invisible reality of imagination, creation is effortless. There is no strain in assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled. There is no resistance in seeing yourself already at the end. It is as simple as resting in the conviction that it is done. Effort belongs to the senses, but ease belongs to the spirit. When you struggle and strain, you are trying to make something happen from the outside in, forgetting that all things flow from the inside out. The law is simple. What you are inwardly, you become outwardly. Manifestation is not about forcing results in the physical world. It is about entering the state inwardly and allowing the physical world to conform. Struggle indicates that you still believe the power lies outside you, in people, conditions, or chance. Ease demonstrates that you know the power is within, in consciousness itself. Think of the difference between trying to fall asleep and actually sleeping. When you try, you are tense, restless, worried about whether it will happen. The harder you try, the more awake you feel. But when you relax, when you let go of the effort and simply surrender, sleep comes naturally. Manifestation is very much the same. If you strain to make it happen, you only succeed in reinforcing the belief that it has not yet happened. But when you enter ease, when you surrender to the feeling of already having, the state naturally assumes itself and expresses outwardly. This is why effort is so deceptive. It makes you believe you are working toward your goal, when in reality you are pushing it further away by emphasizing its absence. Ease, on the other hand, draws it closer because it rests in the conviction that the end is already secured. You cannot receive by striving, but you can receive by being. When you adopt the state of the wish fulfilled, you are not begging for a future blessing. You are embodying the truth that it is yours now. This alignment between desire and assumption eliminates struggle, for struggle only exists when you believe you are separate from your desire. To live this truth requires practice, because the senses constantly cry out with appearances. The bank account may look empty, the body may feel weak, the relationship may seem absent. Yet if you respond only to appearances, you remain trapped in effort. This is not denial, but higher recognition. You are not pretending the bank account is full. You are assuming the state of wealth within, knowing the outer must eventually match the inner. You are not pretending to be healthy. You are embodying the feeling of vitality now, knowing the body will conform to the new assumption. This is what it means to live in ease rather than effort. You do not battle with the shadows on the wall. You change the light within that casts the shadows. When you shift your inner state, the outer must obey. The world is powerless to resist the assumption you sustain within. Effort is wasted energy, for it fights the effect while leaving the cause untouched. Ease is the recognition that the cause is imagination, and once imagination is set in motion, the effect must follow. Therefore, desire is your signal, imagination is your soil, and ease is your method. Plant the seed of your longing in the rich ground of assumption. Water it with feeling. Rest in the conviction that it is done. Then live your days without strain, knowing that the harvest must come. The law does not fail. What you assume with persistence, you experience in fact. And the beauty of it all is that the process requires no exhausting labor, no desperate effort. It asks only that you dare to believe, dare to feel, and dare to rest in the unseen until it becomes the seen. The law of assumption is one of the most powerful truths you can ever come to understand, for it declares that what you assume to be true, whether in imagination or in feeling, becomes the world you live in. Life does not respond to what you say you want, nor does it respond to what you merely wish for. Life responds to the assumption you carry within yourself. When you assume the state of being already fulfilled, when you live inwardly as though it were already accomplished, the outer world has no choice but to conform. It is not a matter of forcing or willing something into existence, but of being it in consciousness before it appears in fact. The law of assumption reveals that you are not waiting on the world to deliver your desire. The world is waiting on you to adopt the state of already having it. If you assume lack, you live in lack. If you assume abundance, you live in abundance. If you assume health, vitality becomes your experience. This law does not judge or discriminate. It simply mirrors back to you what you accept as true. You cannot outwit it, for it is operating at all times. Whether you are conscious of it or not, you are always assuming some state, and your life is nothing more than the evidence of those assumptions hardened into fact. This is why effort becomes unnecessary when you grasp this principle. The act of assumption itself is the creation. When you claim inwardly that your desire is already yours, you have already performed the creative act. There is no need to struggle for evidence or force events, because consciousness is the only reality. The outer world, no matter how solid it appears, is only the shadow cast by the state you occupy within. Change the state and the shadow must rearrange itself accordingly. Imagine for a moment that you are an actor stepping onto a stage. The actor who plays a king does not question whether he is a king during the performance. He assumes the role so completely that his words, his movements, his presence all flow from that assumption. The audience responds not to the man himself, but to the role he embodies. In the same way, you are the actor on the stage of life, and the state you assume inwardly is the role you play outwardly. If you assume wealth, you will think, feel, and act in ways that reflect wealth, and the stage of life will provide the props and circumstances to match that role. If you assume love, you will carry yourself as one who is loved, and life will mirror it back to you. It is not enough to assume for a fleeting moment and then return to old states of doubt and lack. You must dwell in the assumption as though it were already the natural condition of your life. Do not make it a task of force, but a gentle resting of your imagination in the end you desire. The more natural it becomes to you, the faster it solidifies in form. This is why the phrase living in the end carries such weight. To live in the end means to inwardly adopt the feeling of already being the one you desire to be, and to remain there regardless of outer appearances. Feeling is the bridge between assumption and reality. It is not enough to mechanically repeat words or images in your mind. Without feeling, the assumption has no life, no creative power. Feeling is what fuses the imaginal act into reality. The moment you feel the reality of the state you desire, you have crossed the bridge into possession. The body may still stand in the old world, but consciousness has already moved, and the outer must follow. To understand this, think of a dream. In a dream, you do not question the reality of what you feel. You may be walking through a city, speaking with someone long gone, or standing in a place you have never visited. Yet in the dream it all feels real. The feeling of reality is what makes the dream your experience. In the same way, when you feel the reality of your assumption, even if it contradicts the senses, it becomes real to consciousness. The world, like the dream, must yield to that feeling and arrange itself to reflect it. Consider the person who desires health, but continues to dwell on weakness. He may speak affirmations of strength, but if inwardly he feels frail and imagines himself declining, his assumption is weakness, not health. His words have no power because they do not carry the feeling of truth. But if that same person begins to feel the aliveness of health, to imagine himself walking with energy, laughing with ease, and enjoying vitality, the feeling bridges the gap between desire and reality. Soon the body, which is only the reflection of consciousness, conforms to the new state assumed. Feeling is not created by effort, but by surrender. You do not strain to feel. You allow yourself to feel. When you close your eyes and imagine the scene that implies your wish fulfilled, let yourself sink into the emotional reality of it. If you desire wealth, do not simply say the word wealth over and over. Instead, imagine holding money in your hands. Imagine the relief of bills paid. Imagine the security of knowing you are provided for. And most importantly, feel the satisfaction and gratitude of it being so. That feeling is the bridge that carries you from imagination to manifestation. It is important to note that feeling is not the same as emotion in its wildest form. Feeling is the inward acceptance of reality. It is the deep sense of conviction that this is already mine. Emotions may rise and fall, but feeling is steady. It is the quiet knowing that anchors you in the state of fulfillment. When you achieve this inner conviction, the outer world cannot resist it. It must bow to the feeling you have accepted as true. The law of assumption and the bridge of feeling work together in harmony. Assumption sets the state, and feeling gives it life. Together they form the invisible path that carries you from where you are to where you long to be. But it is not truly a path of distance or time, for consciousness knows no delay. The moment you assume with feeling, you are already there inwardly. The outer world may take time to rearrange, but the reality has already shifted in spirit. The one who understands this lives with a quiet confidence. He does not anxiously scan the horizon for signs, nor does he labor to make things happen. He knows the seed has been planted in imagination, watered by feeling, and that the harvest is certain. He can rest in ease, for the law does not fail. His only task is to remain faithful to the assumption, to return again and again to the feeling of the wish fulfilled, until it becomes the natural state of his mind. The present moment holds a power that few truly recognize. Most people live either haunted by the past or chasing after the future, rarely stopping to realize that all creation begins and ends in the now. The future is nothing more than imagination projected forward, and the past is only memory replayed in thought. Neither has substance apart from what you give them in this present instant. When you finally grasp that reality itself is created here and now in consciousness, you step into the secret of effortless manifestation. What you call tomorrow is only a shadow of what you are imagining today. If you desire change in your life, it will not come by waiting for a distant day. It comes by entering into the assumption in this very moment that it is already done. Time is one of the greatest illusions that traps the mind. You are taught to believe that fulfillment lies somewhere ahead, that one day you will finally have the success, the love, the health you seek. But that very belief of waiting only reinforces the absence of your desire. To say it will happen is to declare it is not yet yours. To claim it is happening now, even before the senses show proof, is to align with the true law of creation. Creation does not take place in the future. It happens instantly in the imagination, and the outer world unfolds in sequence to reveal it. The present moment is the only field of power there is. This is why you are urged to live as though your wish were already fulfilled. When you imagine yourself in possession of your desire, you are collapsing time. You are no longer reaching for a tomorrow, but embodying the end as a present fact. It may look as if nothing has changed outwardly, yet within, the shift has already occurred. That inner acceptance is the seed of the outer transformation. To live in the present moment with the feeling of already being fulfilled is the essence of effortless manifestation. It is the bridge that eliminates struggle, because you are no longer striving for what you believe you lack. You are simply living now in the consciousness of possession, and life mirrors that back to you in due course. The senses, however, will often resist this truth. They will insist that what you see is real and that what you imagine is only fantasy. But the wise know that appearances are nothing more than delayed reflections. The senses show you the harvest of past assumptions, while imagination plants the seeds of the future. If you are governed by appearances, You are trapped in the cycle of repeating the same reality again and again. But when you dare to ignore the senses and remain loyal to your inner vision, you free yourself from the tyranny of time. You understand that your present assumption, not your past experience, determines what unfolds next. This practice requires discipline, not the kind of effort that strains, but the discipline of remaining faithful to the unseen. When you are tempted to look at circumstances and declare defeat, remind yourself that the present moment is your canvas. Whatever you imagine now, whatever you assume now, is painting the picture that will soon appear in your outer world. Nothing is fixed. Nothing is final. Life bends to the state you occupy here and now. This realization alone brings freedom, for it shows you that you are never a victim of the past or a prisoner of delay. You are the creative power of this moment. Another profound secret of effortless manifestation lies in silence. When you understand the creative process, you recognize the value of holding your desire quietly within, rather than scattering it through constant discussion. Silence multiplies power because it concentrates energy. When you speak excessively about your desire, especially to those who doubt or dismiss it, you weaken the force of your assumption. You invite contradiction, opinion, and interference into what should be a sacred process. But when you keep it in silence, you allow the imaginal seed to germinate undisturbed, safe in the secret chamber of your inner world. Think of the way a seed grows beneath the soil. No one sees it. No one hears it. In silence it stretches roots downward and shoots upward until, in its own time, it breaks the surface. The manifestation of desire follows the same law. It does not need to be announced or defended. In fact, the more it is guarded in silence, the stronger it grows. When you retire to your inner self, assume the wish fulfilled, and let the silence of faith hold it. You are working in harmony with the unseen process of life. The silence is not empty. It is charged with creative power. Silence also disciplines your inner conversations. The greatest secret many overlook is that your constant self-talk is shaping your world. Every inner dialogue is a seed planted in consciousness. If you continue to speak inwardly of lack, failure, or delay, then no amount of outward affirmation will bring lasting change. But if in silence you cultivate inner conversations filled with the tones of fulfillment, success, and joy, you are aligning with the state of your desire. Silence, therefore, is not only the absence of outward speech, but also the mastery of inward speech. It is choosing to speak within yourself as though you are already the person you wish to be. When you grasp the power of silence, you no longer feel the need to convince others of your vision. You do not rush to prove or justify yourself. You know that the law is at work, and that in time, the evidence will appear without effort. Your silence becomes a shield, protecting your assumption from doubt and from the opinions of others. More than that, it deepens your faith, for every time you hold to your vision in silence, you affirm to yourself that it is already done. You rest in quiet confidence, knowing that imagination is the true reality and that the world will soon echo what you have accepted in secret. This combination of living in the present moment and guarding your vision in silence creates an atmosphere of certainty. You no longer chase the future or argue with the world. You remain steady, here and now, in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, and you allow the silence of faith to do its perfect work. This is the way of effortless manifestation. It is not loud. It is not frantic. It is calm, confident, and sure. The world, in time, must bring forth what you have already claimed within. For consciousness is the only cause and silence is its surest ally. Revision is one of the most profound tools available to anyone who wishes to live free from the chains of the past. Most people believe that the past is fixed, written in stone, and beyond the possibility of change. They carry old memories, old wounds, and old regrets as though these events have eternal authority over their present and future. Yet the truth is that the past, just like the future, exists only in consciousness. What you remember is not an unchangeable fact, but an image replayed in the theater of the mind. Since imagination is the true creative power, and all experience exists only as states of consciousness, you hold within yourself the ability to revise the past and thereby alter the direction of your life. When an event troubles you, you can either replay it in its original form, reinforcing its sting, or you can enter the quiet of imagination and see it unfold differently. Revision is the art of deliberately changing the memory in your inner world until it matches the outcome you wish had occurred. By doing this, you are not pretending or escaping. You are rewriting the cause at the level of consciousness, which inevitably reshapes the effect in your outer life. The law is unbending. What is impressed upon the mind and imagination will sooner or later be expressed in fact. The past, then, is not a prison but a field where you may plant new seeds at any moment. Imagine a situation where you felt humiliated, betrayed, or defeated. Instead of carrying that wound forward, close your eyes and enter the scene once more. See the faces, hear the words, feel the atmosphere. Then deliberately change the script. Imagine yourself being treated with dignity, receiving kindness, hearing words of encouragement instead of scorn. Feel the relief, the joy, the satisfaction as though it had happened that way originally. When you persist in revising the scene until it feels natural, you overwrite the old memory with a new one. This act changes your present mood and your future trajectory, because consciousness no longer carries the weight of the old assumption. Revision is not limited to painful memories. It can be applied to any event where the outcome was less than what you desired. Did a business deal fall through? Did an opportunity slip away? Did a conversation end poorly? You can return to those moments in imagination and rewrite them in your favor. By repeatedly revising the past, you align your inner self with the state of success and fulfillment, and life must echo that state in visible form. You discover that you are never at the mercy of what has been. You are the master of what is remembered, and by changing what is remembered, you change what is experienced. What makes revision so powerful is that it dissolves the energy of regret and replaces it with the certainty of victory. Many people waste their present moments by rehearsing failures of yesterday. They say, if only this had happened differently, my life would be better today. They do not realize that through revision, they can literally cause it to have happened differently in the only place that matters, their consciousness. And because consciousness creates reality, the outer world must eventually reshape itself to mirror the revised past. This is why those who practice revision faithfully report changes in relationships, opportunities, and even physical conditions that once seemed unalterable. Hand in hand with revision comes the spirit of thanksgiving. Gratitude is not merely a pleasant attitude or a polite expression of manners. Gratitude is the seal that fastens your imaginal act into reality. When you give thanks before the evidence appears, you are demonstrating faith in the unseen. You are declaring with certainty that what you have assumed in imagination is already accomplished. Thanksgiving closes the gap between desire and fulfillment because it affirms that the two are one. Consider the difference between asking and thanking. Asking suggests that something is not yet given. It reinforces the sense of separation from what you want. Thanksgiving, on the other hand, acknowledges possession. When you give thanks, you act as one who already has. You embody the state of fulfillment, and life responds accordingly. This is why gratitude is so potent. It does not wait for physical proof. It creates proof by establishing the feeling that the wish fulfilled is already real. Thanksgiving also calms the restless mind. It replaces worry and doubt with quiet assurance. Instead of wondering when or how your desire will manifest, you rest in gratitude that it is already yours. You no longer chase or beg, you simply live in the joy of knowing. This shift in attitude is what allows the invisible to flow into visibility without resistance. Gratitude opens the door wide for manifestation because it aligns your entire being with the state of having rather than the state of lacking. Think of someone who has received a gift. They do not sit anxiously wondering if the gift is theirs. They accept it with gratitude, hold it with joy, and use it as their own. In the same way, when you assume the wish fulfilled and seal it with thanksgiving, you accept your desire as a gift already delivered by the unseen hand of imagination. You carry yourself differently. Your inner conversations change. Your actions are infused with confidence. Gratitude becomes the evidence of faith, and faith is always rewarded with manifestation. The most transformative practice is to combine revision with thanksgiving. Each night before you sleep, review the events of your day. Wherever you find disappointment, frustration, or failure, revise the scene in imagination until it reflects the outcome you prefer. Then give thanks as though it truly happened that way. By ending the day in this manner, you erase the sting of the past, plant new seeds for tomorrow, and go to sleep in the feeling of fulfillment. The subconscious mind, which works most powerfully in sleep, then carries these impressions into manifestation. Over time, you awaken to a life that reflects not your disappointments, but your revisions and your gratitude. The practice of thanksgiving also ensures that you remain aligned with your higher self, rather than falling into the trap of striving. Without gratitude, you may find yourself constantly looking for signs, impatient for results, and doubting the process. Gratitude, however, roots you in the conviction that the unseen has already been seen in imagination, and therefore, it is finished. You no longer waver between hope and fear, You walk in quiet confidence, assured that life is arranging itself to mirror your inner certainty. Revision frees you from the chains of what has been, and thanksgiving anchors you in the reality of what already is. Together they form a dynamic power that transforms your relationship with time, memory, and expectation. No longer are you a captive of yesterday's failures, nor are you an anxious seeker of tomorrow's blessings. You live as the master of your inner world, reshaping the past and sealing the future, all within the present moment of your imagination. And as you persist in these practices, you witness life bending, reshaping, and responding to the truth you have accepted in silence and in gratitude.